What's up, all you good fellow fly guys? You know who it is, the cat in the hat, your resident fly guy, your chief architect, Michael Andrew of StarArchitects.com, here to help you redesign your frame of mind when it comes to the styling thing. And welcome to another Discourse in Dress, some expressions for your ensemble and some sonnets for your style. Today we're going to be wrapping up our conversation about collars, so you can pop your collar, getting ready for the weekend. Now we're going to talk about the 6 main collars that are going to be in menswear now. And before we continue the conversation, I just want to give you some context here. When we're talking about these collars, these are the 6 main collars that you're going to find in menswear, but due to the availability and accessibility of custom menswear now, there are numerous variations to all of these. So take this with a grain of salt, and if you do have the opportunity to do some custom or some made-to-measure options, then take advantage of those different types of things and figure out if you can make the necessary adjustments to the collars. Now, when you're doing those things, 2 things you want to pay attention to. The first thing that you want to pay attention to is the height collar. You want to make sure that if you have a longer neck, that the collar is higher. If you have a very condensed neck, that the collar is not sitting too high, and so you may need to lower that. You also want to make sure that you have the proper width for the tie gap, and the tie gap is the space where the tie would go. So the collar, when you don't have a tie on, that's the tie gap, is going to work for balancing out your face and work for the type of tie knots that you like to tie. So with that being said, we're going to focus on those 2 things when it comes to the 6 collars that we're talking about. Just giving you some context again for what it's going to do for your mind, how you can begin constructing that into your wardrobe with those 2 elements, and then lastly what it's going to communicate. So the first collar that we're going to talk about is the standard straight collar. Now this is the collar that your granddad probably used to wear, and maybe if your dad, if he's an old head, still wears this straight collar. And consciously what it's going to promote is that conservative type of classic look. This is a shirt that was around long before we were here, so it's definitely not a collar that should just be dismissed and thrown out. Again, you want to add this to your wardrobe. If you have a wider face, those longer points and those straighter lines are going to add balance to your face. If you have a rounder face or a bigger square head, there's nothing wrong with that. Listen, we all got our issues, so just make sure that it's balancing it out. And the great thing about the straight collar is when you are making your tie knot, most guys are making a 4-in-hand knot. This is going to be a really great knot for that type of shirt collar. So it will be something that you don't have to make any adjustments on and will be beneficial to you. So it's going to end up communicating when you are throwing this on that it is a very classic look. The great thing about the straight collar as well is you can unbutton it and it is going to stand a little bit higher. If you're a guy who still is fashionable but you still want to make sure that you're creating balance there, no problem. All you need to do is, if you are doing some MTM or custom, make sure that your bottom has a little bit more of a spread collar at the base, and that way you'll have some more width that will allow the look to be a little bit more fashionable. The second collar that we're going to talk about is the button-down collar. Now we already know the history of how the button-down collar came into being. So you know that consciously this is going to be associated with casual sportswear, movement, those different types of things that you are going to be expressing when you are moving throughout the day. Because of that, how you want to construct that is to always think casual. A lot of guys will wear button-down collars with ties now. I don't really recommend that. It doesn't really benefit the look if it is for formal business. Now, if you're doing something casual, right, rock out with your tie out, right? But you can have some more fun with that because of its casual nature. You can also wear a bow tie with your button-down collar, and that looks cool, but just don't wear that for anything formal because it ultimately communicates that you don't really understand the etiquette of formal business dealings in that space, and it's not going to be a good look. But if you're in a business casual environment, a business casual workplace, or you're hanging out for the weekend, the button-down collar is always a great place to go, and you can definitely get you a button-down Oxford, which is what most guys tend to wear. The next collar that we're going to talk about is the moderately spread collar. Now, the moderately spread collar is probably the most famous, the most well-known collar that you can wear because it is in the middle. It's not too spread and it's not too straight. So this is the collar that most guys go for when they are going to get their shirts, especially now that it is in fashion. That's a way that a lot of guys can go. Now, again, if you have an abnormally large head, again, we all got our issues. You want to stay away from spread collars. I just recommend it. I think that it's going to make your head look bigger, so it's always better for you to have a straighter point in that space. But if not, if you're moderately sized head or you have a slightly oval head or a triangular head, you can get away with a moderately spread collar. And I know a lot of guys don't want to seem like they don't have a fashion sense, but if you do feel that way, you can move that route. It's going to work really good for a half Windsor. It can work with a 4-in-hand depending on the size of the tie and the thickness of it, and so you can work with that as well. And it's going to communicate just a fashion sense and a fashion awareness generally when you have it on. The reason I do like moderately spread collars is that the base of the collar still is going to stand up pretty well when you are wearing it without a tie. So it's a good investment for dealings in formal as well as casual movement. The next collar that we're going to talk about is the tab collar, the rounded collar. It's one of my favorite casual collars just because it's a little bit more of finessed flair. Now again, this is for a guy who doesn't mind having conversation starters on. The tab collar is great for tie pins or the tie bars that have the holes on the side, just because they are going to hold up a little bit better. Now you can wear tie pins with other collars. We'll talk about that when we start talking about menswear accessories, but it's just a really cool look and it is a great conversation starter. It's not something that I would wear for formal business. It is a very casual collar, so it's something that you would wear on the weekend. You can wear it without a tie, but it kind of takes away from the purpose of having the rounded collar, because that's kind of what adds to the flair and the finesse of it. But you can do that, and it ultimately just again communicates a conversation starter. It's very subtle, so it's for the people who are paying attention to details, but it always, when I wear my tab collars, they always incite, where did you get that from, man, I really like that collar, things of that nature. So again, it does communicate the fashionable side and it is a great conversation starter. The next collar that we're going to talk about is the spread or the cutaway collar. Now again, the spread is much more extreme. Mine right here is more of a spread collar. You're seeing that it is really giving you a spread, and the extreme version of that can be the cutaway collar. If you like Ralph Lauren, or if you are a Ralph Lauren person, then you know about the Keaton collar, which is a straight cut cutaway collar that a lot of guys like to wear. Again, big headed guys, if you got a big head, don't wear the cutaway collar. I know it's tempting, I get it, but it's not going to be beneficial to you. If that's the case and that's what you like, make sure that you are getting something that is straighter with a more spread base, and that way you can still get that fashionable side there. Now again, for the guys who got the longer heads, a cutaway collar is a perfect collar for you because it's going to create a baseline for you. That spread is going to balance out the long length of your head, and that will be beneficial to you. Now when you're constructing that into your wardrobe, please understand that with that you have to have a wider base when it comes to your ties. So I want to see the guys who wanted to get the Keaton collar but didn't know how to tie the tie knot. That's going to be the most beneficial for you. If you're going to do that, you need a full Windsor tie knot. We'll talk about some other tie knots that you can wear in some future episodes, and you need to make sure that your tie is long enough to create that type of knot and still have the length to cover the length of the shirt. I don't want to see you with the 4-inch blade because you had to double your knot up here so you would have some fat knot. That's not the way to go, and that's just going to show that you don't know what you're doing when it comes to your style, or you're coming up short when it comes to the communication. The other downside with the extreme spread is it's not going to be beneficial when you are taking your tie off. So you're going to want to keep a tie on or just keep it buttoned up, because it's not going to sit right within the jacket once that tie does come off. So just be aware of that. But it is a slick look. It is a more business and kind of you know, seductive type of look. I'm not gonna lie, when you have that spread cutaway on when you're wearing it. A lot of cool dudes do wear it, so I get it. And that's what that tends to express. The last collar is the banded, the Mao, or the Mandarin collar, some people do call it, but it's the collarless collar. And this is a very casual collar that you can wear when you are stepping out for the weekend. This is definitely not for business. It's not for formal unless you're going to an Indian wedding or something like that. You're going to be wearing a Nehru jacket. This is a great transitional piece for the guy who does not want to dress up. Like, I have some clients who will say, man, I'm just not a dress up guy. Well, this has a feeling of a Henley, so I put some guys into this with a very casual and lightweight fabric, and they love it. It works for them. So this can be a great alternative for that guy who's not looking to dress up. But again, it is going to be something that is going to be casual, so just bear that in mind there. And it has become more of a fashionable thing over the last year, and I think that's going to be moving in that direction when it comes to casual shirts. So you can be ahead of the game there. This is going to be a fashionable piece now, but it is a casually cool expression when you're putting it on. So that's it. Those are the 6 types of shirts that you can wear. Again, there's going to be numerous variations that you can utilize within a MTM or custom space. If you do have some questions about that, please feel free to leave me some comments in the comment box. I'll be sure to answer those questions for you. Hey, pop your collar this weekend, have some fun, and make sure that you are always dressing yourself with the best of yourself. Please make sure that you give this a thumbs up if you found the information beneficial. Please make sure that you subscribe if you're feeling the vibe. I'm here every day, Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please make sure that you share this with a friend. You never know, they may be able to use it. And lastly, don't ever forget that dress is nothing more than the expression of a man's state of mind, so you should always dress to express. I'll see you next time. Peace.